When we want to add a new color to a project decorated by slip stitch selvedges, we inevitably get a jog, like the one over here and the one over here. See, the edge stitch is kind of shifted upwards. Not the end of the world, but we can do better than that. We can get a nice, neat effect like the one over here. And here's how we do it. If the slip stitch selvedges in your project are formed by slipping the first stitch purlwise with the yarn at the back of the work and purling the last one, then normally we would slip the first stitch like this, then pick up the strand in a new color and start working on the next stitch and the stitches after that. And that's what causes the jog. See, this stitch remains in the old color and it will show off that color like the stitch over here as a jog. Not good. So instead, here's what we do. We pick the strand in the new color right away and we knit the first stitch instead of slipping it. And we can do it with the yarn in the right hand like this, or we can do it with the yarn in the left hand like this. Doesn't make any difference at all. So we knit the stitch instead of slipping it. And then we continue to work in the stitch pattern of our choice until we get to the last stitch of the row, and we purl that stitch as usual with this type of selvage stitches. See, all stitches now are of the same color, and that means no jog. And we do this little tweak only in the row when we change the color. In the next row, we do the usual thing. We slip the first stitch purlwise with the yarn at the back of the work, then we work to the last stitch and purl that stitch, just as usual. And we see that the result we get is much neater than the result we got over here when we changed to the yellow color without taking any precautions. If the slip stitch selvedges in your project are made by slipping the first stitch purlwise with the yarn in front of the work and knitting the last stitch, then we do pretty much the same thing. We work the first stitch instead of slipping it to avoid the jog like the one over here. But because of this purl bump, we cannot do it right away. That would mess up our edge. To get the neat, clean look like the one over here, we need to make one extra step. We need to bring the yarn to the back of the work first. And we cannot bring it back like this, wrapping the edge, because that's what messes it up. We should slip the first stitch purlwise from the left needle to the right needle, and then bring the working yarn to the back in the space that is between the first and the second stitch of the row, like this. Now we return the stitch, and now we are ready to work that stitch to avoid the jog like the one over here. So we pick up the strand in a new color, and then instead of slipping the stitch, we knit it through the back loop like this. And then we continue to work until the end of the row, and we knit the last stitch as we usually do with this type of selvage stitches. See what we've got now. This stitch is not elongated anymore, but it is still consistent with the edge, and we also don't have any indication that we're gonna have a jog over here. The look will be nice and clean like the one over here. The third most common way to create slip stitch selvedges is called Selvedgian selvedges. That's when we knit the first stitch of every row through the back loop and slip the last stitch of every row purlwise with the yarn in front of the work. Because the first stitch of the row is worked, is knitted through the back loop, we don't get any jog over here. The right edge of the project usually looks great. The jog shifts to the left edge of the project where the stitch is slipped, and we can clearly see this jog over here and over here. Not great. We'd rather have a result like the one over here where all stitches are neatly aligned in one line. Here's how we do it. At the beginning of the row where we change the color, we pick a strand in a new color, and as usual, we knit the fourth stitch through the back loop. Again, we can do it with the yarn in the left hand or in our right hand, doesn't make any difference. And then we work to the last stitch of the row. And instead of slipping it like this with yarn in front and creating a jog, instead of that, we purl this stitch just in this row. And then we turn the work and continue to do the usual routine of knitting the first stitch through the back loop and slipping the last stitch with yarn in front. Just in this one row, we do this little tweak. We purl the last stitch, and that's what removes the jog and gives us a much better result. If you find this tutorial helpful, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon to be notified every time I publish a new video. Happy knitting, my friend. I'll talk to you in the next tutorial.